Welcome to Vital Voices, the show where we spotlight impactful leaders and initiatives shaping the health, safety, and future of our communities. I'm your host, Alexis Burrows, and today we have an insightful episode lined up for you. Joining us is Mr. Keno Wong, the immediate past chairman of the National Neighborhood Watch Council. With a wealth of experience in fostering safer and healthier neighborhoods, Mr. Wong will share the vital role Neighborhood Watch programs play in crime prevention and community building. We'll dive into how the council collaborates with the Royal Bahamas Police Force and discuss the government's Clear, Hold, Build initiative, a comprehensive approach to tackling gang violence and revitalizing communities. Get ready for an inspiring and eye-opening conversation about the power of collaboration, trust, and community action in building a better future for us all. Stay tuned. Today's episode of Vital Voices is brought to you in part by Oak Tree Medical Center, Kalina Insurance Limited, and Valor Security. We are pleased to be joined today by Mr. Keno Wong, who is the immediate past chairman of the National Neighborhood Watch Council, to talk about that group, to talk about the importance of neighborhood watch groups, and to look at the role that neighborhood watches, community groups play in the overall, management of crime and safety in the country. He served in that role for the past 5 years, and is obviously still very much interested and engaged in this space. So we are happy to be joined today by Mr. Wong. Welcome to the show.
It's a joy to be here.
So, I'll be honest with you. Before I saw some of your posts within the last, 6 months to a year, I wasn't really familiar with the National Neighborhood Watch Council. It was something that was a completely foreign concept to me. So can you just start, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that exists in that space, sadly. But can you start by telling us a bit about the Neighborhood Watch Council and its mission, what its role is, and how that kind of plays out?
Well, the National Neighborhood Watch Council was the brainchild of, first of all, under the Christie administration during their 2012 to 2017. However, it also was part of the 2040 vision of the Bahamas. However, the then government, the Free National Movement government, came into governance in 2017. In 2018, the former Minister of National Security, Marvin Deems, saw fit to bring community leaders together from the various neighborhood watch groups so that they would not operate in silos, but have the support from the Bahamas government. So the name, the National Neighborhood Watch Council, was created. It was launched on April 30th, 2018, with just 40 neighborhood watch groups. Today, as I submit office, we have approximately 175 neighborhood watch groups throughout the country, primarily here in New Providence, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, and Abaco. And if it wasn't for COVID, we perhaps would have pushed through the other remaining islands, the 12 other major islands of the Bahamas, because of course we have 16 major islands throughout the Bahamas.
Wow, that's a tremendous growth.
Yes.
And obviously, COVID would have had a role to play in even dampening that to some degree. But that's a lot of growth in a very short time. What inspired you to get involved in this particular area? What spurred your interest in community safety, neighborhood watch efforts? Like, what drew you into that space?
Well, I dare say that I always had a keen interest for safer and healthier communities. When I purchased my home in the Johnson Terrace community, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. John Knowles. And he was more on the senior side of things. And so, they were always looking for someone to take on the role to be a community leader. And I jumped right into it. And so I've been serving as the community leader for Johnson Terrace from 2002 to now. All right. Basically, it was 22 years?
That's a long time.
22 years as the community leader. And when the opportunity knocked in 2018, I was not too keen interest, if I can be open.
No, be completely frank.
I was a supporter of the Progressive Liberal Party. Of course, we had just lost the election. And here comes representatives from the government asking me to be a part of this program.
Right.
And so you're salty, and you didn't want to be bothered. And then the late former senior assistant of Commissioner of Police, Stephen Dean, said, don't think about it as political. Think about it as nation, as country. And when I saw that vision, I said to myself, that is exactly what it's all about. Serving your country. And so I got involved with the National Neighborhood Watch from January 2018. And ever since, I've been involved. I give kudos to the first two co-chairs that were there, Barbara Hareburn and Kiva Major, who served as the first co-chairs from 2018 to December 2019. And ever since 2019, I've been in leadership up to November 1st of this year, 2024. Yeah. If I can share a little bit, the vision of the National Neighborhood Watch Council is to connect people and empower communities to foster safer and stronger neighborhoods throughout the Bahamas. And of course, the mission is simple. It is to provide strategic leadership to all neighborhood watch groups by fostering effective partnership with the police, the church, and community to prevent crime, improve safety, and advance the quality of life for all Bahamians.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a critical point, and that's why I encourage you to be frank, because there's a lot of initiatives that get started under one party being in governmental leadership, and then those things go by the wayside when government changes. So it does, to me, kind of prove the importance and the shared understanding of the importance of something like this, that despite it being the initial efforts of one government, it was carried through successive governments, because that's important. We've seen a number of different things kind of ebb and flow just because of who's in power at any particular time. And I do think it is critical that we understand the place. If you think about it, the family is the bedrock of society. And then from the family, you go into the neighborhood, the community, the island, the country, the world at large. And so, putting together plans and initiatives to help foster community, foster that space is very critical in kind of maintaining, sometimes just the sanity and the civility of the place that we live in. So speaking to that, in what ways does a Neighborhood Watch program contribute to making communities safer?
That's a great question. Community engagement, encourage residents' participation and cooperation, fostering stronger relationships among community members, promote collective responsibilities for safety, and one, two is crime prevention. You organize a neighborhood watch, deter potential criminals. If you see something, say something, informing and sharing surveillance that you see through your camera systems, collaboration with law enforcement. Of course, when you look at safer, you look at the environmental improvements. All right, cleanup initiatives and maintenance, improve lighting and infrastructure, enhance everything about your neighborhood to be able to fight this criminal element, to have a safer community. So these are some ways that Neighborhood Watch programs can contribute to making their communities, our communities, safer. But also, who are the people in your community? That's a key component. Do you really know the people in your community? Do you know your neighbors? Do you really know your neighbors that lives to the right, to the left, to the back, to the front, even 3 homes down the street from you? How well do you know the people in your community? That's a major question that a lot of us really cannot answer.
No. I mean, I've lived a number of different places. The only place that I can say that I really knew my neighbors like that was when I was living with my parents, which was, the neighborhood I grew up in. Obviously, there would have been other kids who I was friends with, people in the neighborhood that my parents would have been friends with. And I think, that's probably where most of that was. Having, like I said, lived a couple of different places as an adult, it's very different now. And then I think it's interesting too. I think the difference when you're talking about if you're renting versus being a homeowner also kind of throws a monkey wrench into how some of these watch groups work, because it's like, well, you're not really, like, you're a member, but you're not really a member, right? So there's also that interesting component of it. But you talked about the idea of that connectedness between neighbors, between members of a community. Obviously, we understand the general cliche of the strength in numbers, but how does that connectedness lead to safer and healthier communities?
Social support.
I mean,
that's a broad one.
That's
right?
a good one.
Support for volunteering your populations with your youth and your seniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much of us are really engaged in that group sector of our seniors and our young people in the community? Mm-hmm. Question is this also, right? Conflict resolutions and meditations. How often we as men, fathers, allow our daughters and our sons to interact with the next door neighbors, kids?
That's very true.
So we wonder, how do we create safer communities when we don't even know the people in our community?
Right.
So we could put up signs that says you are now entering a crime watch community. Mm-hmm. It's just a sign. Mm-hmm. But how much of us are really involved within the sign?
Right. Yeah, because I know I've heard stories of neighborhood watch groups where it's like this. It's the same 2 or 3 men that are responsible for managing, the watch in the evenings. And obviously, if you have a large community, it is kind of it's almost unfair to leave that burden to just a small few. So I imagine through an initiative like this, the idea is to encourage as many people as possible to be involved. And I guess the more you know the people that you are living in a community with, you get to know the good and the bad elements, right? Yeah. It's interesting because we are very much exposed to and informed by American culture, right? What would you say are some of the unique challenges that we face with neighborhoods in our country versus neighborhoods in other parts of the world? And how do neighborhood watch programs help to alleviate or bring assistance to those unique challenges?
I'll tell you this. I am also an executive board member of the Neighborhood USA. Okay. I'm the first Bahamian to serve on the executive board, being elected by my peers internationally. Mm-hmm. Our unique system here in the Bahamas is paramount, different. It's the best compared to those in the north. I say that for all of our audience to truly understand. We have a one belief system. Right. In the United States, Canada, and elsewhere, they have precincts. Mm-hmm. We are governed by one Royal Bahamas Police Force, one commissioner. We may have different divisions, but we still have one police department. Right. And so therefore, the relationship with the community and the police is a very unique one compared to those in the north, in America or Canada. So we have, because our country is still a small knitted country and still governed by one police force, you will find that the community policing that comes under the precincts of ACP, Anthony Roll, and then trickle it down to Chief Superintendent Davy Pratt, who deals primarily with urban renewal and neighborhood policing. You'll find that a lot of the neighborhood leaders know the officers who are in their communities. And so when we look at the unique challenges that we face with, we are faced with a unique challenge by having police officers that are known to us. In America, when I attend conferences, they are truly amazed to know that we have a one-on-one relationship with police officers in the Bahamas compared to them, because some communities in America, police officers don't even go in. Let me repeat that. Some parts of the great United States of America, and I quote, police officers don't ride through. Mm-hmm. And there are communities that suffers because of that.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Well, what does that collaboration look like? Because you indicated that it's a one-on-one sort of relationship, and obviously that's driven by the fact that you said our system is so different from others. Because in the U.S. you have state police, you have all of these different various components and segmentation of the police force. But how does the council collaborate with the Royal Bahamas Police Force, in order to either support the neighborhood watch groups or, just what does that engagement look like?
Well, the council is designed with a structure, and the structure is very simple. You have the National Neighborhood Watch organizational structure is the Ministry of National Security, which is the minister. Mm-hmm. Then you have the permanent secretary. Then you have a national coordinator. Preferably is someone that is a retired senior officer, mm-hmm. or one that is still sitting in the chair. If I had my own way, I would allow a national coordinator to be a civilian. Mm-hmm. Someone that is retired, but also a civilian that has a true passion for community work and community leaders, right? That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. However, we have the chairman, then we have what we call, getting back to that uniqueness with the partnership with the law enforcement, we have what we call a police liaison officer, mm-hmm. who, as I said, is Chief Superintendent Darby Pratt. Okay. So the collaboration now works with the police officer by going through the channels. Mm-hmm. So the NNWC, which is the National Neighborhood Watch Council, now seek to go through the divisional police officers. Mm-hmm. So say, for instance, you live in Fox Hill, or you live in, let's say, the Wolf Road area, mm-hmm. right? Which is Angleton, mm-hmm. Peardale. And so you have an officer there by the name of Chief Superintendent Antonio Monroe. Mm-hmm. He goes his division goes as far as Monastery Park, okay, which is off Prince Charles Drive. Right. All right, so he takes care of from Monastery Park into Marathon. Mm-hmm. All right, some parts of Camp Road, mm-hmm. up on Collins Avenue.
It's a pretty wide range.
Okay, and some part of Angleton. Right. So that division and the community leaders that are in Nottage, that is in Marathon, mm-hmm. that is in the Monastery Park, they communicate with him and build that relationship, that mm-hmm. collaborative information system. They partner with them, regular meetings with police, sharing intelligence and reporting, collaborative problem solving. Mm-hmm. So when there's issues in the communities, instead of dialing all the time 919, you may be able to call an Officer Monroe, mm-hmm. and say, Chief, I see some situation that's taking place. Right. I need your assistance by sending a patrol car. Here's the difference on this, and an audience as well. When you have that one-on-one personal relationship as a community leader, mm-hmm. with a police officer, that police officer, whether it's male or female, will accept your concerns quicker, mm-hmm. than you calling 919. Because 919, the person on the opposite side, not necessarily saying to you, you can't call 919. Right. But because you have that personal relationship with the officer in charge of that particular division, he or she will respond to you quicker.
Yeah, it's a different experience.
Relationships.
Yeah, and relationships matter, obviously.
Yeah. And so the police force relationship with community leaders is very paramount. Mm-hmm. And if there's none, then we all suffer.
Right. It's funny. I smiled when you mentioned Nottage because that actually is the community that I grew up in. Okay. So I was familiar with the neighborhood watch group there. My mom was involved in the community group when she was still alive, and so I'm very familiar with that. And yeah, they seem to be very robust. They would have neighborhood meetings and things like that, and it was good to see because you kind of felt this sense of if there was ever anything that went wrong. So like I remember one time, not long after I had moved out from my mom's house, there was some suspicious activity, and she was able to call the person who was the leader for the neighborhood watch, and they were able to quickly, like you said, to your same point, get a patrol car to come into the neighborhood and check it out. And so, I could speak from even just knowing that experience and seeing that it does work, and it does work that well. And it speaks to the importance of that engagement and that relationship between the police force and these different neighborhood watch groups.
And now that you're still on Dan Nordich, let me give Dan Nordich community leader a shout out, and that is Ms. BJ DeVoe. She continued to hold the mantle in Dan Nordich, and so to her and her team, there you got Mr. Love that is in that community as well. And the late I forgot his name, but who's always dressed down in all the colorful, Mr. Hanna.
Yes.
Mr. Hanna was quite involved with helping as well. Yeah.
Remember those colorful pants. I think you kind of talked through the significance of the collaboration. So let's move, I guess, a little bit more broadly to the Prime Minister's initiative. So I know earlier, I think it was this year, Prime Minister Davis outlined this initiative called Clear, Hold, and Build. And the intention of this strategy, from my looking through it and understanding, it's specifically geared towards combating gang-related violence. Can you kind of give us an understanding, a bit more detail about what this initiative is and what that means for communities, and then how the Neighborhood Watch Council engages with it?
The Bahamas Government Clear Hold Initiative started off in the South Central Division.
Okay.
If anyone knows the South Central Division is that Anglican community in a significant step, Mountain Heights, towards achieving safer, better, healthier neighborhoods. As a community leader, endorsing this initiative is crucial, and I firmly believe every community across the country should adopt it. Some of the key benefits, from this Clear Hold and Build initiative is reduce crime. And by adopting the Clear Hold Build tactic, communities can effectively tackle serious and organized crime. As seen in the United Kingdom, the UK's implementation, where West Yorkshire police reported a significant drop in burglaries, drug offenses, and antisocial behavior. We have noticed that ever since the key benefits of the Clear Hold and Build initiative, there has been a lot of incidents have reduced in the South Central Division. Properties, derelict vehicles are being moved. Old buildings are being torn down, of course, with the assistance of the properties owners.
Right.
All right, to get them cleared down. So the community engagements, this Clear Hold and Build initiative by the government with the community engagements, this initiative fosters community engagement, improving confidence and trust in what we just spoke about, the law, the police enforcement. And so, for instance, relationship between the police and the community improve, with the community feeling more accessible and confident in reporting intelligence. And so when we talk about more about Prime Minister Davis' outline, we talk about the sustainability. For the initiative to be sustainable, community ownership is vital. Local schools, churches, organizations, and partners must be totally involved.
There's obviously three phases of this platform: Clear, Hold, and Build. So can you walk us through what each of those sections are supposed to represent, and again, where the neighborhood watch groups interact in each phase of this plan?
Clear. The vision. You see something that needs to be done, it has to be cleared down. So we know that the criminal elements from the community aspect, from neighborhood communities, neighborhood watch, if we clear down these properties where the criminal element, the criminal-minded individuals hang out,
right,
then you start to have a better community. And so therefore, the initiative is to clear down all of these overgrown properties in the inner city areas, right? To disrupt what? Them peddling with their guns and drugs and whatever else. The whole is to bring the entire body together. The mind, your spirit. So we can get clear communities, then we can hold our people accountable.
Gotcha.
You gotcha. So when you start to move all these derelict vehicles out, you start to tear down all these old wooden or stone structures that are harboring criminals. Now you can hold the community accountable to work with you. And then build. You got to build on the human aspect of living. Restructuring our communities, putting down better community parks, green spaces, building lives, our young children coming from school. And so the peddlers now on the streets can't afford to touch them because why? Everyone is involved.
Yeah.
And so when you're building now, you're not just building structures. You're building communities, one whole soul at a time. And so our young children coming from school, they are now going into these community centers to do their homeworks, study, and perhaps even getting a trade.
Yeah, it reminds me of when urban renewal first started, and I know there were a lot of community buildings, community centers where people would go. Like you said, that's where the urban renewal ban came out of, things like that. And we've seen the success of programs like that. And obviously, I think, when you think about it from from an overview perspective, if you've cleared out, all of the, like you said, the spots where people may hang out, they may peddle their wares, so to speak. It also then creates an opportunity for people within the community to feel safer to engage with other members of the community. And now I imagine it may foster like community events and things like that, where people get to, get a little bit more engaged in knowing who their neighbors are, who the different members of that community are, which, like you said, helps to be able to hold people accountable. And obviously, it's how all of these things play together that makes something like this a success. So it's hard to have a conversation about safety, even in the vein of the neighborhood watch, without addressing obviously some of the issues, the major issues that we've had with gun violence in our country. I think sometimes we like to, as general civilians, take a look at it and be like, oh, well, that's just the gang members killing the gang members, or that's just, a robbery gone wrong. And we tend to look at it from that standpoint. But obviously, we still live in you can't go more than sometimes a day or two without seeing some additional, adding to the murder count, that sort of thing. Yeah. So, it remains a critical issue for us. How does the Neighborhood Watch, the groups themselves, the council, approach this challenge within, your programs, your partnerships, your initiatives?
Great question. The Royal Bahamas Police Force, along with their leader, the Commissioner of Police, Clayton Fernandez, and also the Prime Minister, said that 99% of our guns comes from legally through the United States.
I think that was just in the newspaper today.
Thank you. Gun violence is the new drugs of choice for criminals. It's so sad. I think just over this weekend, a young man was coming from a nightclub right there on West Bay Street, just before you reach those beautiful hotels, and he was gunned down. Yeah. Understand that he may be still alive, right? But addressing gun violence in communities require a multifaceted approach. Community-based initiatives, neighborhood watches and community patrols, conflict resolutions that we continue to hear about, programs, mentorship and youth empowerment, job training and economic opportunities, mental health service. We always talk about the mental aspect of it, right? And support, educational and awareness, which means that gun safety and responsible ownership, in terms of, when I say ownership of staying away from gun violence. not getting involved with it. Our country is based on water. We have all different type of entrance into the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So guns can come in so much different ways.
Yeah.
In your cereal boxes, clothing, televisions, big computers, washers, dryers. And so our import system in terms of the Bahamas customs, they have a lot of work to do because it's
a tall task.
It's a multifaceted agencies that has to be involved.
Yeah.
Then we have a lot of leisure cruise ships that comes through our channels. We don't know how much guns perhaps they may be hiding on those boats and dropping them off at a particular point in the water for young men to go and collect. And so we have a gun problem issue. Someone would say, well, hey, what about allowing individuals to bring guns in at the church and they get money? They bring a old rusty gun that's just been sitting around for years.
Right.
Just to get $100. That's not going to work. Stricter laws. We as community leaders will continue to advocate for stricter penalties. If you're catch with a gun, I'm understanding, I don't remember the country, but if you are caught with a gun, you automatically go to prison for 40 years. And every bullet is 10 years.
That's definitely one way to approach it.
If we do that, and put that on our law books, that if you are caught with an illegal firearm, you automatically get 40 years, and every bullet that is in that gun is a 10-year added to that 40 years.
Yeah, it should move the needle, and it should impact people's thought process about these things.
So policies changes, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Policy changes, and someone needs to sit down and say to community leaders, or community leaders got to get to the policy makers, whether it's the Minister of National Security, the Attorney General, the Chief Justice, and say enough is enough. We would like to write a blue paper, and we'll present to you that these are our recommendations that we want to have safer and better communities. Then guess what? 40 years is the max that you'll get, or that's the minimum that you'll get is 40 years.
And then you add on.
And then you add on the 10 years
per
bullet.
Yeah.
So when an individual then realizes, hey, if I get catch with this gun, I go into prison for 40 years automatic, and it's fast track. So there's the policies is that it's fast track. There's no
right. You're not getting lost in the system.
You go to court today, you get into jail today.
Right.
You don't no bail.
Well, I mean that presents its own challenge, as we see so many of the crimes are committed either by someone who's on bail or against someone who's on bail.
Yeah.
So we know that there are difficulties in the approach of that system. So that idea of fast tracking it, obviously, those are the sort of stiffer penalties that when people talk about stricter rules, that's where you take it. It's interesting because I think one of the key things that may be missing, or maybe a point of interest for improving and changing, is how do you get younger residents engaged in these safety initiatives within Neighborhood Watch? Like how do you reel, the late teenagers, 20s, even sometimes early 30s, how do you pull them in? Because obviously these are people who maybe you are physically capable of doing the work. How do you get them engaged?
Easy. I live in a community that we have approximately about 75 homeowners. And I started off with my own kids. And so when other residents notice that my kids are involved in terms of walking with me in the community, what you think they would have done? They get involved.
Yeah.
Because they want to be a part of it. You have to build a culture in your community by inviting the Generation Z, X, whatever they want to call them nowadays.
I think it's Gen Z.
Gen Z? Generation Gen Z, Generation X, Generation whatever. But you have to set up what you call a community meeting to have their involvement. Allow them to be a part of it. in my community, we are planning now our Christmas social, right? Thanksgiving Christmas social. And we have young people that are part of it. We have to get them involved because at some point, you are going to fade away. Old soldiers fade away. So just like in my community, when I came into that community, Mr. Knowles grabbed my hand. And he said, I see that you could be a great leader. You need to take this on, Keno.
Right.
And I was like, wow, put this right in my hand like this. Okay, hold on. And so I ran with the vision because you don't want it to die.
Right.
So getting young people involved is asking them in the communities, your community, if you're listening, your community, initiatives that will empower them.
Yeah. It's encouraging to hear too, because I think we as a nation suffer and struggle from a lack of succession planning, right? We see it in all spheres, whether it's business, whether it's church, whether it's community, whether it's even just in families alone. So it is important. I think it's a very critical point to speak to that idea of building succession in, so that, you know, when you're the age that, you know, Mr. Knowles was, and someone new comes into the neighborhood, or somebody who, you know, was living in and now they've taken ownership of their parents' home, that you can grab their hand and say, look, you know, my time is fading away soon, and now it's your time to take that baton and move it on. And I think there's a lot of spheres of our community, corporate, whatever, that can glean and learn from that idea of actually building out succession, because that's how you continue the success into the next generation. Is you plan for it. You plan to hand it off to somebody who's capable of taking it, you know, beyond where you've taken it, and to continue that work. You know, I imagine there may be different organizations, different partnerships that are a part of the Neighborhood Watch Council. So are there, obviously you partner and you collaborate with law enforcement. Are there any other groups that the council engages with, partners with these initiatives to help continue to foster stronger and safer communities?
We partner with Crime Stoppers, Bahamas. That's one of our greatest partners besides the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We also have the Rotarians. Rotary is a part, you know, we have Rotarians that are part of the council, and they share information, we share information, how we collaborate with one another. So there are individuals that we work along with, all right, to really assist in this battlefield. You know, like you should tell folks, crime is a demon. Crime is a demon, and you got to kill the head. And so in communities where we find address community concerns, or communities that might be, how do they get around to participate in neighborhood watch activities or neighborhood watch groups? I usually say this: if you care about your community, if you care about your family, if you care about having safer and healthier communities, then you will stand together and create a neighborhood watch group. And neighborhood watch groups also, and I dare to say, is different from neighborhood association. There's two different components.
Right.
Associations deal with the upkeep of your buildings, your verges, your parks, you know, how well you keep your property. You know, they are associations.
Right.
Neighborhood watch deals with, I see something, I say something. All right? So if Mr. Burrows lives 5 houses down and he is out, he could go in a WhatsApp group and say, hey, I see a young man wearing a red shirt with some white stripes on it. He has some plaques on his hair. And he is passing my house. I don't know who he is. Sam now coming out, and she said in the WhatsApp group, yeah, he just passed my house too. Now Johnny coming out and say, yeah, he just passed me too. So time we get to the end, how much people already saw that gentleman with the red shirt and white stripes and his plaques in his hair? Everyone have seen the same one.
Right.
So him walking down, noticing that everyone outside watching, what do you think happens to him?
Oh, I mean, if he had intentions, it definitely should be kept at bay, because now you realize that everybody kind of has eyes out.
And so that's the significance of having a neighborhood watch,
right,
compared to a neighborhood association.
Mm-hmm. And then there's strength in numbers in doing that, right? So it's like, you might live in a neighborhood, you hear something in your yard in the middle of the night, and if it's just you going to go walk outside to say, oh, let me go investigate, you might not feel as empowered to do so. But if you have the strength of that community, you can call around and be like, hey, look, I heard something, and you get a group of a couple of people to go and investigate it. Then there's that strength and that feeling of safety in approaching it that way. Because you're not going to stop everything, but I think that idea of being able to develop that strength in the community to be able to address these things is very important.
Yeah.
I think it's critical in having this conversation, to share if you have any, major success stories, any recent success stories where you can outline a neighborhood watch programming having a definitive impact, positive impact on its community.
We, as an organization under my leadership tenure, one of our greatest, we have two really great success stories that we won an international award on neighborhood policing that fell underneath us in 2020. And that was at the IACCP conference, called us the International Police Conference. And so the National Neighborhood Watch Council won that award for what they consider reducing crime, community policing, community engagement, and the aspect of that one-on-one personal relationship with each other. Success stories comes from Centerville, Overtown, with President Randy Hanna, who does tremendous work in the Centerville, Overtown community, which is right here in the heart of the city. And then we have success stories of United Against Crime, Mr. Omar Thompson, who continue to do wonderful outreach ministries in his community, all right, on Gibbs Corner. And then we go further in the Southwestern Division, where Jubilee Gardens, that is led by Ms. Debbie Lightbourne, who has placed in 2 years back-to-back at the Neighborhood USA Conference, one in El Paso, Texas, where they came second runner-up. So among so many other neighborhoods across the United States.
Right.
So it shows that our efforts continue to push. So there are great success stories where community leaders have informed police officers where drugs were, where guns were, and they were able to go and get them. Yeah. So these are success stories in your communities. It comes to a point in time where there's so many other success stories that community leaders sometimes just hold it back because you don't want to inform everyone of what you're really doing in terms of helping the police. So you keep quiet with it.
Right.
So we have community leaders that will call and say, there are neighbors that are meddling with drugs. I see it, and that's what they say. We see it, and we report it. And that's why it's not on the news every day.
Right.
But the community leaders are helping the police to curb crime. And so these are some of our crucial success stories that individuals are working out there and helping. And we are there to say that one of our members of parliament, member of parliament for Centerville, donated a mobile patrol unit for the Centerville Neighborhood Watch groupings. So that was significant. And so we can go on about other success stories, but when you have a member of parliament that sees the vision, understands the vision,
and goes as far as that type of donation,
purchase a vehicle.
Yeah, you're seeing the impact.
Yes.
Yeah. And obviously, like you said, the recognition in international spheres as well is telling the impact of the work that you're doing. Obviously you're coming out of the role of being chairman. But having spent 5 years in it, obviously having spent 20 plus years as a community leader, you know, what message would you like to leave with our listeners about the importance of community involvement in safety initiatives?
Promoting safety, promoting positive community forms, encouraging each other in our communities, being our brothers and sister keepers, not just here in New Providence, but Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Abaco, and Exuma, and wherever else. I always say, who are the people in your community? These are the people that you see every day. You know, how well do you know your people in your community? You know, and so implementing strategies such as community engagement and participation, government support and funding, collaborative leadership, continuous evaluation and improvement. Together we can work towards safer, more resilient communities. And so in my closing, I would say, it is with persistence, determination, and diligence that we will succeed to accomplish safer and healthy communities throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Right. Now, I don't want to let you go without asking this question, because obviously we're coming into the holiday season. You know, what are some tips that you would leave with our listeners about how to navigate the holiday season safely? You know, what impact the Neighborhood Watch group may have on you know, navigating the holiday season, and just what tips would you give to people? Because, you know, this is always a very interesting time of the year. You always see spikes in crime. What advice would you give to our listeners?
Safety is paramount for everybody. Home safety. Ensure working smoke detectors in your home. Keep candles and fires away from flammable materials. Secure Christmas trees and decorations, prevent electrical overloads, right? Travel safety. Plan and check every day as you travel from home. We know that time has changed. We know that by 5 o'clock it's dark. So if you do not have the dusk to dawn lights, put them on. Get them installed. Make sure you have lights that are on in the front of your home. If you're coming home late at night, call a neighbor. This is very important. Call a neighbor. Let them know that, hey, I'm on my way home. You should have your next door neighbors' numbers. You should have across the street from you a phone number to say, Mother Johnson, I am on my way home. I know I didn't leave no lights on, but can you all look out for my place? I'm coming home now. All right? These are some of the concerns there, right? Where your consider your time. Christmas Day, let me say this to all of you, Bahamians. Christmas Day, let's get it right. We buy our children the latest Z-Box, Xbox. We buy our husband the 65, 75 platinum television. And what do? We put the boxes outside to be collected. Well, let me say it now. Criminals are always shopping on Christmas Day, taking pictures. This is a disclaimer. This is just allegedly that even your garbage collectors can be also mimicking of where you live and what you may have in your home. So discard those boxes, tear them up, put them in the back of your trunk, carry them out to a dumpster, and put them away. Right?
Yeah.
Personal safety, be mindful of your surroundings during the holidays. Keep valuables secure. Avoid walking alone in the parking lots at night where there are dark pockets. If you go into the malls, don't park way across the other side, and because a lot of cars was there, you decide that it's safe. No, when you get back to a particular mall, no one may be there.
Right. And
you have 6 bags in your hand, and Thomas is looking for an opportunity, and he grab your belongings, all right? Also, personal safety. Stay hydrated during the holidays. Drink a lot of water, a lot of fluids. I didn't say go drink your beers and stuff and get drunk, right? And so, an additional tips I'll leave is this. Check your holiday lights and decorations. Secure outdoor decorations. Plan for emergencies. Stay informed. Stay safe. But most of all, remember the season is for Christ the King, and enjoy the holiday season.
Awesome. Obviously, I want to give you an opportunity if anyone is interested in finding out more about the National Neighborhood Watch Council, about how they can start their own neighborhood watch group, how they can get engaged and connected with this overall group.
First of all, you can call the Ministry of National Security, 502-3800, 502-3800. You can go onto Facebook and look for National Neighborhood Watch. Information is there. You can call the new chairman, Mr. Jason Fitzgerald, and his number is 242-456-8105.
Okay.
That's 242-456-8105. Or you can still reach out to Keno Wong, and I'll be more than happy to assist any community that wishes to create a neighborhood watch in their communities. And of course, all of this is free of charge. All right? We want the entire Bahamas to have neighborhood watch groups. And just let me put it out there. Neighborhood watch group is not just about crime. It's about getting to know who are the people in your community, having social events on your green spaces or your community bars, sharing with one another, asking a neighbor across the street, but like back in the day, Annie Sue, mommy ain't home, you don't have some ketchup I can get it, or you don't get some rice that I can get, or you have any extra pepper. These are the ways that we grew up on. All right, let's show love in our communities, and that's what I leave it to. Let's show love. Love our neighbors. And young men and young women, if you listen to this, put down the guns, man. Put down the knives. Deal with conflict resolutions. Be able to talk to each other. Be able to sit down and iron out the differences. So that you can live, another person can live, but we can have a better Bahamas for everybody.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much, Keno, for joining us on this conversation today. I think there's a lot of really good information. I think if anybody like me coming into this wasn't quite clear on, what it is that the council is, what the importance of neighborhood watch is, I'm sure they have a much better understanding of it now. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Vital Voices. A huge thank you again to Mr. Keno Wong for joining us and sharing his invaluable insights on the role of neighborhood watch programs and their impact on creating safer, healthier communities. As we've heard today, safety and community go hand in hand, and it's clear that initiatives like Clear, Hold, Build are vital in reclaiming and revitalizing our neighborhoods. If today's conversation inspires you to take action, consider getting involved with your local neighborhood watch program or partnering with community organizations that work towards a safer Bahamas. We'd also like to give a special thank you to today's sponsors, Oak Tree Medical Center, Colina Insurance Limited, and Valor Security. Subscribe to Vital Voices for more conversations that matter. Until next time, I'm Alexis Burrows, reminding you that safety and progress begin with each of us. Stay safe, stay strong, and see you soon.